wife Kim, Kimiko, we have Ryan, we have his beautiful wife Sherrod, we have Sean, Trish over here, and hidden to my left, we have Joe Flo, we have Brittany Sin, we have Dash the DJ, and we're just pumped just to talk to you today, to share with you, to build some hope. Okay, this is a rough year, okay, but it's been a hopeful year as well. I'm excited about the end of this year because I believe the rest of it will be the best of it. Even if it's just a couple of days left, couple of weeks left, but it's all good. You know, today we're talking about, I hope I blow up. Have you ever thought that? Have you ever said that to somebody? Like, I hope I blow up. Yeah. No matter what it is, I think deep down we all want to blow up. Even if you're super indie and super chill and cool, like, no, I just do it for the love, man. No, you want to blow up in some form or fashion because you want to eat, right? So we're talking about hope today. And the beginning of this year was a challenging year, okay? You know, it started out, you know, a little sus, okay? And we were like, okay. And then we headed into, I think was it February, March, when Kobe and his daughter passed, right? Kobe and Gianna passed, and it was just, you know, devastating, of course, it still is. And then we moved into the COVID, okay? The Rona. And the pandemic started. And we were just, you know, shocked because we didn't know really what a pandemic was. We've seen the movies, you know, we've kind of gone through the motions, and that started, and then some shutdowns started happening with schools and churches. We shut down for a little while in person, but we were still online, of course. And it was just a challenging time. The staff rallied together, volunteers, our dream team, said, you know what? We got to do some things different. We got to pivot. We got to shift. We can't do it the same way we've always done it. We don't know, because originally they were like, oh, it's going to last just 2 or 3 weeks and you'll be good. And it's been, you know, 7-8 months and there's still no ending in sight. And this is now the new normal. And so we went from that from a world shutdown to schools and churches shutting down to cancellations, churches and artists and concerts, everything just stopping. When the NBA stopped, that's when I knew we got a problem. Okay, I was like, oh snap, because they bought that money, you know what I'm saying? And they have money to test and all that. I was like, this is a serious thing. You guys remember when it got serious for you guys?
I do. I remember we were in staff meeting, Sean probably remembers, and Pastor was like, what would you guys do if we shut down? And when Pastor was saying that, I'm like, shut down? Like, that's not happening. He went on vacation, he came back, and then we already had a plan in place to start church online.
Yeah, that's intense. What about you guys?
It's kind of funny for me because I was actually on spring break, and this is gonna sound really like weird, but I was on the beach, okay? And I got an email because I had an internship interview following week in Los Angeles. Wow. And I was on the beach and I got an email and it said canceled. And I was like, whoa, canceled? And it was like red letters and said COVID-19 canceled. And I was like, y'all shutting down my flight? Like my interview? Like, come on.
So you're supposed to interview with Red Bull.
Right. I had an interview set up in LA like the following week. Wow. So I was out there and I was gonna fly back home and then go back. But it all got shut down. So I had like my PowerPoint ready, my essay ready to go, and it all just had to go away. That's when I knew I was like, okay, they're shutting down flights.
Right.
And it's pretty serious.
Yeah.
I think the realest thing for me, like, I don't know, I'm like not one to like jump on the bandwagon. I'm like, oh, shutdowns, no, that's not gonna happen. But it got really real for me when I lost my job. Well, I didn't lose my job, but we shut down. It was supposed to be for only 2 weeks, and it ended up turning into a little over 2 months. So that was like,
what do you do?
Got really real really quick. I'm a hairstylist.
Gotcha.
So that was a really, really crazy time. And I was like, wow, okay, this is happening. So here we go.
Yeah. And with your job, you're, you know, obviously with people a lot, and you're face to face or, you know, head to face, whatever you can call it. And, you know, you're in close quarters, and now everybody's wearing masks. Obviously, we're wearing masks right now, you know, and we're all, you know, talking to one another. But it was really weird because it's kind of like, well, how long do I have to wear this thing? You know, which mask actually work? Do I need a filter? You know, people started wearing masks. Like, oh, those masks don't work. You need this type of mask. And now it's like everybody wears a mask. Yeah. So I think, you know, we're all adapting and adjusting right now. And then in the midst of this pandemic, there's been really a pandemic, a silent pandemic happening, you know, for many years, hundreds of years, really. And we kind of opened up this envelope of race and division. And right in the middle of a pandemic, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, like what's happening right now? And obviously it's been going on forever, but we're really taking the lid off some things. We really had some conversations and some enlightenment and some encouragement really even through this process because it got ugly. And I believe in order for something to get better, sometimes it has to get worse. And it's been worse for a long time, hundreds of years now, don't get me wrong. But we start to see glimpses of hope.
Yeah.
You know, even through conversations and, you know, people going on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and, you know, going back and forth. But I think we're seeing some people awaken that haven't awakened before to the things that have been plaguing our nation and this world for many, many, many years. So that was encouraging, but obviously devastating in the middle of this pandemic. And then, you know, it's been an election year as well. Okay, so we have all this stuff. This big pot of, was it gumbo or jumbo or? Gumbo. Okay. Big pot of gumbo in 2020. And you know what the election has brought us and what it brings. And it's just been a wild ride this year. And, you know, I'm just still hopeful, still encouraged because I always rest on this scripture here. Jeremiah 29:11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." I love that. And I love the CEV version. Pastor was speaking about that. He says, "I will bless you with a future filled with hope." And I was like, I've never thought about it that way. And I was like, man, God, you have a future for me and it's filled with hope. And when you're hopeless or you're not very hopeful, it's very draining. Because sometimes you don't know where your next whatever is going to come from. Sometimes you don't know how you're going to wake up in the next morning, how you're going to go to work, how you're going to pay for this, how are you going to interact with this person. It's tough to really live without hope. Yeah. It's draining. And let me ask you guys a question real quick. 2020 taught you what? Like this year, like 2020 taught me fill in the blank, and you can fill in the blank in the chat as well. Like, what did 2020 teach you? Make sure you engage with us because we'll be talking to you and we want to hear from you. But I'll ask our panel here, what did 2020 teach you?
When you sent the message, Ryan, we were having a conversation about it, and I was like, 2020 sucked. That was my first reaction. I was like, everything about it was just horrible. And then the next day, I was like, I got married in 2020. I started a business in 2020, and my sister started. So I was like, literally, because of how I felt at that moment, I like looked at the whole year like this was horrible because I went through something instead of looking at like the bigger picture, like all the things that I did make it through. Like Brittany, I do hair as well, so I also lost my job, but I still made it through. And I didn't look at that at first. That was just my first reaction, just like it was bad because I was out of work, but it was like every bill was still paid and I still ate every day, so I didn't lack not one thing. So it's just like, it definitely taught me to look at the bigger picture, like recognize the blessings that I do have, because like if I didn't have them, I wouldn't have made it, but I did. So
Sherrod, you're saying in the middle of the pandemic, you got married, which you pushed it back a little bit as well. You and Ryan, you pushed it from what, a couple months back?
April to June.
3.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And I'm sure that was a test of your faith as well, because like I've been waiting all my life to get married, and now there's a pandemic and we have to push it back, and really not sure if you could really have the wedding that you really wanted and planned for and paid for.
Yeah.
And how did you feel with that, Ryan? Tell the people, how do you feel?
With the wedding, like, I mean, we waited up until the last minute. You know, we weren't gonna cancel it with like a month in advance or so. Like, I think it was like 2 weeks, maybe something like that, before the wedding, before we actually made that decision to push it back. But it kind of sucked a little bit. I was like, man, like, you know, I was still looking forward to it.
We bought a house.
Yeah, we bought a house. I'm living there for another 3 months by myself. Lonely, the house, making noises and stuff. It was weird. But, you know, looking back too, there was a lot in those months that we needed to like figure stuff out.
That's good.
The right shoes and belt and stuff, like that all had to come together that I didn't have. But
not a washer and dryer,
right?
but
You know, that could wait. I could do that in the backyard. But not just like that, but more so like personally, there was just stuff that we needed those few extra months. So it was a blessing for us. Like where it sucked for a lot of people, it was helpful.
I'll encourage you guys with this. If maybe something's delayed in your life, that doesn't mean it's a no. Maybe God's prepping you. Maybe he's making some more rooms, more time for some things to align for you. So when you actually receive and walk into what you're supposed to walk into, you can actually be triumphant and have success in it, as opposed to just getting there and then now what? You know? So that's so good. So 2020 taught you what?
For me, it's perspective.
Yeah.
You know, just like Ryan Nicole was saying, like it's all about perspective. Like I also bought a house in 2020, so it's like still making moves, still stuff happening, and I never once was like, oh man, you know, nothing's gonna take place. You know, it was always, no, God's still gonna come through. You know, it sucks, but yeah, he's still gonna come through. He always has, and he always will. You know, so keeping that perspective, and basically whatever my mentality is was my reality.
Yeah.
So if I was thinking positive, positive things are happening. Yeah. If I got down and negative, then negative stuff was happening. You know, you lose stuff or car break down, tire blow up, whatever. But I was thankful through it all. Even when that stuff happened, I had the cash available. I just got it fixed. You know, and that was my perspective. Well, you know what? It's fixed now. Whether I'm glad it happened on the side road instead of, you know, on the highway. You know, well, one of them happened on the highway. I had a second car and the engine blew up while I was driving down the highway, but there was no one on the highway and I was able to get over safely. And you know, it is what it is. And my engine blew up, but I was thankful enough that I had a second vehicle. I just jumped in the second vehicle and kept going, kept my same appointments. Didn't even skip anything that day. Wow. So it's all about perspective for me. That's what I learned this year.
I love that. I hope I blow up. Not your engine. But that's so good. That's so good. So Sean said your mentality is your reality. So it's all about perspective. How are you looking at the opportunities, we call them, you know, challenges and things that happen that are like super crappy. We call them opportunities, because it's an opportunity for us to respond the right way. How we respond to these things will determine if we're gonna stay at the same level and go around that mountain one more time, or if we're gonna elevate, learn what we need to learn, and move on to the next thing, because there's always gonna be a next thing, okay, by the way. But I love how you responded when the tire blew up, when the engine blew up, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, now what? God, you've taken care of me here, and thankfully I'm alive and have some cash to adjust, to pivot, so I love that. 2020 taught me what, Dash?
I believe this year has definitely taught me doing things more creatively and adjusting. I think I work in a creative agency, and even before that, having worked in ministry, I mean, years of production and other things, you know, you get paid for your time, really. So it's like, if you use your time to panic and do other things, you've pretty much halted all of what can happen in that production time. So me as a professional shouldn't do that. You know, you can hire an amateur to waste time for you, but when you're getting paid, you know, whatever amount of dollars you're getting paid for, they're looking to you to solve a problem, to solve an issue. You know, I have 3 kids. So bedtime, for some reason, I don't know why, it's a season where they want to play and do other things. So I'll tell them, hey, focus in, brush your teeth, go potty, and then we'll read a book. If you don't do that, consequences are going to happen. So now we're seeing 3 different types of personalities at work, where one is all about their business, the other one wants to be whatever, and the other one just does their own thing. So I'm seeing, they teach me a lot, kids, of course, but I'm seeing now as a result, what happens when you waste time? What happens when you're stagnant? What happens when you actually don't use your time wisely? So a lot of people, if they don't use the time that they had in 2020, all right, you're at home, great, read a book, you know, double up on podcasts, double up on reading or whatever, writing, whatever it is. I know for a lot of businesses were created. And actually in that first month, I had someone, and I freelance too on the side and do some contract work, but I was able to sign like a few contracts for people to do, you know, digital content creation, because that's what they needed for their business. Because now we're seeing people or businesses pivot. Of course, the people have to pivot too. And a lot of people, the way they're consuming different things, they're pivoting too. You know, so people aren't, they're watching more TV because they're at home, you know, or they're probably at home, you know, listening to the radio, listening to podcasts and doing other things. So they're consuming content differently. They're not going to concerts anymore. There's been countless of digital concerts that I was able to, like, you know, check it out, you know, and a beat battle. I wanted to go to this beat battle and I couldn't go to it, but they got so creative with it, the production and everything was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know this was capable of doing it. And you just saw this go to a different level. Are they going to go back to where it was before? Probably so. But I think now everyone's been tuned in to how things are changed because this company or these people pivot in a way to where it's just opened up so many doors for them.
I think things will never be the same from here. You know, even if you had a live event and then you went virtual, from now on, you're gonna have to have a virtual component from here on out. You just have to, because you don't know when things will let up and so on and so forth, the comfortability, and this is the convenience as well. And Dash, you're a content creator, you're a DJ, you're a photographer, you're a video creator, all these things, and this is like a prime time for you, especially because everybody needs that. That's what everybody's doing right now. So I'm excited for your future. And you know, I was thinking about 2020, what it taught me. It taught me to prioritize and what my priorities really were, because we were moving so fast, and it was just tough because, you know, when you're not working, you want to work. When you are working, you want to rest. You know what I mean? Right. And you're like, oh, when is this gonna stop? And the world is moving at a rapid speed. You feel overwhelmed sometimes because there's always something else to do. There's always somebody else that needs something, that wants something, that's somewhere else to go. You have FOMO if you're missing out because everybody else is doing things. Now there's no FOMO because there's nothing going on. You're not missing out on anything, which is cool for me. So I think one of the things is like, I gotta prioritize family. Because you want to spend more time with your family if you're working. He's like, man, I just need a little bit more time with the fam. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, now I have plenty of time with the fam, which is really cool. And it really brought you back to the basics and the foundation of what's really important. That's right. What's gonna last? Because things fade very quickly. We see that. People's careers. I'm in the music industry where people's careers have come to a halt. You have like touring, world tour musicians, artists that are now stocking groceries at a grocery store because that's the only source of income they have because they can't tour and they can't do merch. So it teaches you, like, okay, number one, to value what I already have. Thank God for, you know, what he's doing in my life. And then to figure out a way to pivot when things don't go to plan. And that's what we're doing now. Anybody want to jump in on the 2020 taught me what before we move on?
2020 taught me a lot, but the biggest thing that I'm taking away from this year is that I have a lot to learn. And I feel like I'll always continue to have a lot to learn. It's actually funny because I was posting on Instagram for the past maybe 4 years, and I'd post once a month and think that, oh, that's gonna do it to him, you know, I'm a dropper, that's gonna do it, you know, that'll be it. And this June and July is when I said, I can't do that. If I want to grow, if I want to be better than I am and go into digital content creating, I have to do more than what I'm doing now. It's gonna take time and effort. So as I'm posting this and I'm like, why isn't it blowing up? Like, I hope I blow up. Well, did you put in the work? I'm like, you know what? I did not. So I started doing it consistently because I told myself that I have to be consistent, even if it doesn't look as I want it to in a couple of days or a week. Because I can do things for a week and I'm like, it's not working next. But I'm like, what if I just stuck with it? What if I just was consistent, and what if I persevered? What could happen? And I started to do more content and videos in June, and up until now, I always look back and I'm like, all right, I had this many, I had this much, I had this much, and it's less of I hope I blow up, and it's more so of, do I look like Joe Flo? And I actually had a company reach out this past week and they sponsored me.
Nice.
And it was crazy because for so long now, I've been trying to get that to happen, but never did. And then I look back and I'm like, Joe, you didn't put in the work. You thought it was gonna happen because you made a post this and that. And it's like, you needed to step back and learn and continue to be a learner, a lifelong learner. So that's kind of what taught me, and I'm still learning. I'm like, I love fashion, but I have so much to learn. I'm like, it's just crazy.
I love Joe, man. Somebody cash at him right now. Sheesh. Man, you're heading right into where we were going, and we're talking about I hope I blow up. And let me just give you a couple of things of what hope is not. You know, Pastor was speaking about hope today, and he said hope is not wishing. Okay, and you kind of alluded to that a little bit, where it's like, man, I just hope I blow up, and you're not really putting in the work. Hope is not wishing. natural hope and there's supernatural hope, but natural hope is, a hopeless life is a powerless life. A hopeless life is a powerless life. You can't lead anybody to where you haven't been. So if you're hoping and wishing that somebody's gonna put you on, it's kind of like, well, you know what? I gotta put in the work myself, and then maybe I can put somebody else on. And here's the thing, when you're talking about putting in the work, it's very important to keep in mind that, am I losing myself with what I'm doing now because I'm trying to blow up? Or am I being authentic and true to who God's created me to be?
Exactly.
And then people will come seek you out like that company did, and then things will start to blow up. And it's the change of perspective and the change of how you're doing things. Now I'm just gonna brag on Joe a little bit. Joe obviously is a phenomenal, dancer and style icon. Okay, but he's great at his TikToks. He taught me how to TikTok. Okay, he had a TikTok tutorial. He's my TikTok mentor. And you have roughly 200,000-ish on TikTok-ish.
Around that.
Around there. And he's a great creator, but he's constantly putting out content. Like every time I open it up, I see Joe doing another little something or other with it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's how you actually grow, is consistency. You can't hope and a wish and you're actually not putting in the work. Faith without works is dead. And Pastor said, faith without hope is dead. So what are you doing today to not only just build your brand, but to build the kingdom? If you're not working, the kingdom's not growing, not building either. So I encourage you not just to hope and a wish, but to put some works with that and see what God's gonna do in and through you. How do you guys feel about blowing up? Okay, like when you think of, man, I hope I blow up, I hope I, pop off, I hope I make it. What comes to mind? Have you ever thought that? Have you ever felt that way? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it's it's funny because it's like I want eyes on me. I want eyes on me. But once the eyes get on you, I'm like, all right, you got my attention. What now? And it's like, I ain't ready yet. So, yeah, it's almost like wanting to start. I grew up playing sports, and it's like almost like wanting a starting position. Wanting it so bad, but you haven't trained for it. You get on the field or you get on the court, you're lethargic. Your vertical is where it needs to be. You're not kicking the ball the right way. You're toe balling stuff. Playing soccer and whatnot. And if you're a sprinter, you're not running the balls with your feet and stuff. There's a lot of things and techniques that you have to learn before getting to that point. I think a lot of people see, people are succeeding very young. They're starting businesses very young. That's great. But there needs to be some kind of backing behind that too as well. And I think a lot of people who see that would go for broke and do whatever they could do to get to that point. And whenever they get to that point when eyes are on them, it's like, all right, eyes are on me, what now? I didn't just pop in with like 3 kids, I have to make sure like I was fit to be able to, one, hold down my marriage where it needs to be and make sure that's solid or whatever, and get to the point to be able to teach some solid foundational things for my kids for them to grow on, and if I didn't have that, the kids would be a wreck and they're not even above 10 years old yet. So there's some foundational things that I need to learn before I preemptively blow up. Joe, you building content, that's huge because the consistency got to where you are leading to now, where God's leading you.
And that's so good because a lot of times, everybody's fighting for attention. Have you guys seen The Social Dilemma before? I'm not sure if you guys seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix. And it's an attention game. Everybody wants your attention, and that's where all these media companies and streaming companies are fighting for in apps, because they want to see whose eyes are going to be on our product and how can we market to them. We're the product, by the way, but they want to see, okay, how can I get their attention off this and put it on this? And we're fighting for it as well. So we make a post. All the other people that you follow, we want to make sure we get your attention so you can double tap, you can like it, maybe even comment, and maybe even share it as well. And so we're all on this attention game, but it's very important that we're ready once we actually get the attention. And most importantly, we want to reflect that attention for it to be shown on God more than just shown on ourselves, because we can't help nobody by ourselves. But if we reflect who God is through what we're doing, then we can actually make an impact. But you need to be ready. You just can't be out here taking pictures and trying to do this and be in front, and you don't have any content and any substance to back it up.
I actually had a brand reach out to me and I actually talked them out of wanting content or whatever. And I said, once you not pull the plug, but once you do that, you're going to open the floodgates for a lot of attention. Are you ready for that? And then I actually talked them out of the business or whatever. Not their business, but I talked them out of me getting their business because they weren't ready yet. Because they should know that. And I think just like what you said, make it attractive, but then we're leading them somewhere too.
Sure. You can even ruin it if you grow too fast. You know what I mean? Because you're not capable to handle everything that's going on. Trish, you're building a business, and how do you get the tension to where it needs to be on the product, but to keep up with the demand after you've created the buzz?
Honestly, I would say that it's super important that you don't compare, number one.
Why do you say that?
Because, well, for me personally, I'm a small business owner. I do craft goods, t-shirts, sweatshirts, blankets, all like common things that you see. And I'm just getting started. So it's really, really important for me to like stay before God, because he's the one who provides me with the witty ideas and things that I couldn't do in my own strength. So just staying before him, not looking to the left or to the right. And even in the midst of this pandemic, like I started my business back in October. And by the time April rolled around, like right when, okay, this is a pandemic, like the world is shutting down. That's when my business kind of took off. Like I sell a lot of my merchandise on Etsy, and I'm having orders like all over the world. And the biggest thing, that my biggest seller was the Image Bearer sweatshirts. And so just getting that mission across like the world, like I still have people like in New York and Netherlands and places I haven't even heard of, like reaching out to me.
So cool.
It was overwhelming, but like I said, if you stay before the Lord and like don't look to the left or to the right with what everyone else is doing, and just stay the course on what's God called you to do, like
Good work.
it'll all work out.
I love that. I love what you're saying, because you mentioned something that Dash mentioned as well, is looking to the left and the right, but looking at other people's stuff. Because we have access to everybody's pages, everybody's content. And back in the day when you were just hustling, doing what you got to do, it was just you maybe in your community, but you were just focused in. But now you're looking at the progress of everybody else, and sometimes it's daunting where you want to quit because it's like, well, they took my idea, or they're doing it bigger, or they're doing the same thing I really want to do, so why do they need me? You start to second guess yourself, start to doubt what you have and what God has given you, but only God has given you what he's given you. Nobody can communicate, nobody can make a shirt or quilt or crochet, or do hair or style or create content or fashion or speak or juggle. Nobody can do what you guys do like you guys do it. And you have your own unique fingerprint, and sometimes Satan will try to talk you out of doing what God's created you to do because somebody else will do something similar. There's 8 billion people in this world. There's plenty of people to buy your product, people to watch your product. So stop getting all wrapped up in what other people are doing and focus on what you're doing. It's easier said than done. How do you guys do that? How do you, let me ask Kim first. How do you do that when other people are creating something content? Because you always say, man, I had the idea like 5-6 years ago.
Yes.
How do you stay focused on what God's called you to do?
Yeah, as a creative, we all know that people always are thinking almost in the same lines as us. So it's it can make you down or whatever. But what I usually do is just like what she said, is keep my eyes on the Lord and know that God has given me the ideas and what it's for. It's not for me, it's for other people. So if I'm so focused on what it's about myself, then I'm thinking about myself way too much. So that's something that I do, is just keep my focus, knowing that it's not about me, it's about God, and he's given me the idea.
Timing is key too. Okay, timing is key. If God's giving you an idea, it's important that we move on it in his timing, and that's not necessarily always waiting. That's sometimes you got to get to work, you get what you need to get, so you can actually get it done. Brittany, during the pandemic, when you were kind of out of work, and you didn't know necessarily what to do, you have a family and you have a home, and like you're doing your thing. What's one of the things that made you transition to what you transitioned to? Tell me what you transitioned to and why you transitioned that way.
So I actually started making masks while I was off of work, because I have 2 kids, I have a house, and like I had to have money some way. And really it was just kind of it wasn't even really something that I planned to do. I had some fabric laying around from other projects that I had done, and so I made some masks for my family just to stay protected out here, you know. And my sister actually had the idea. She's like, why don't you just post them and try to sell them? I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm like super like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like weird when you're putting like your work out there, you know. I'm like, I don't want people judging me, you know, looking at my seams, you know. Like, but she was like, just put it out there. Like the worst that happens is you don't sell any, you know. And I was like, okay, but I made her type up the post for me. I'm like, I don't want any part of this. It's all on you. You know? So she typed it up for me. I posted it. You know, that's what I ended up doing full time for 2 months. I mean, literally all day, every day. And was able to not only, you know, provide for myself and my family, but was, you know, able to go above and beyond and pay off some debt that I had been, you know, believing for. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I saw she had some new shoes. I'm like, what you? how you make it? How you sew again? Where that fabric at? You know what I'm saying? I think that's incredible. And a lot of times, how many times does fear stop us from doing that idea that's gonna take you to the next level? People are like, oh, you know you should do that. You know you're gifted at that. And we're like, well, and you make all these excuses of why you shouldn't. But why? What if you do? What if it does work? You know, what if you do blow up? Because the goal is not to blow up. The goal is just to be faithful what God has given you. If He's giving you one talent, if He's giving you one thing, $1, flip it. You know what I'm saying? Like, do that, flip that, reverse that, bring it back. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't look at somebody else and what they have. Well, they have $5. Well, take your $1 and do what you got to do with it. Because if not, like in the Bible, the parable of the talents, it can be taken away from you. So what are you gonna do and work with what you have? You know, I'm in the entertainment world where I was like, some things had to get canceled. You know, I'm in live events, and a lot of things that I do are in front of a lot of people. And when you can't be in front of a lot of people and they can't gather, what do you do now? So what I was doing, I always got some side hustles. I always got something, you know what I'm saying, working, cooking in the pot just in case, just because you never want to be dependent on only one thing. You want to be good at one thing and master that, but you always want to have some was it sticks in the fire or some flames in the fire or something in the fire, okay? You want to have something ready because you can always pivot and adjust. So I just wasn't in front of people DJing. Now I'm going live trying to get the iRig, you know, situation going on, which they were sold out of because everybody wanted them. And now I'm hosting. I'm doing the virtual joints, you know what I'm saying? And those events got canceled, but I had some other events that say, hey, we need a virtual host. We need you to do this. So you're figuring out a way to make it happen. And then when you're doing that, you have hope for your future. Yeah. When you're not and you're sitting and you're watching everybody else or thinking, woe is me, you have this pity attitude, you don't have any hope. You want to stop. You just want everything to end, but it won't. Guess what? Things will continue without you. Money will be made without you. What are you gonna do? How are you gonna progress and do what God's called you to do? Ryan, how did you adjust in this time of pandemic when, you know, people are doing what they do and, you know, your wife's starting a business and you have other people trying to hustle and do what you do in the entertainment world as well. Yeah. How did you adjust and make it happen for you?
I think kind of like what Brittany was saying. She was just saying, like, just do it. Like, you know, she was saying that she was afraid people may judge her like seams and whatnot. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be perfect to start. Like, I started a podcast this year as well, and I'm actually kind of nervous to go back and listen to my first podcast because I know it was horrible.
What's it called?
Like, it's called The Upgrade. The whole podcast. The whole podcast is called The Upgrade, episode 1, which you probably shouldn't listen to. It's also called The Upgrade, but it's really just talking about like upgrading your life on a daily basis.
Check that out.
Yeah. But that first one, like, I knew I wanted to start in January, January 1st, and sure enough, I did. I didn't have the equipment. I know Sean gave me a little bit of equipment to start. I had whatever kind of set up in my little room. But I did it, and then I didn't know how to put music to it. I didn't know how to edit, nothing. But I just started, and now, like, we're a year later, and I'm loving it, in my opinion. I don't know about y'all, but it sounds so much better than it did in January. So, but that's the thing, is just do it. Like I said, you don't have to be perfect to start something. Right. You gotta start somewhere.
Progression and growth. I have a note here that says gradual gains, you know? You have to, step by step, inch by inch, And sometimes we want to be swole overnight, okay? I can tell you from experience, it's not gonna happen, okay? I've tried it. Give me 2 weeks and a protein shake, and we'll see what's going on. But the thing is like you have to consistently get in the gym and start with what you have. Put that in the chat. Start with what you have. If you don't start with what you have, you'll never get to where you need to go.
Yeah.
You know? I always say you may not be where you want to be, but thank God you're not where you could be. So you might as well take what you have and get to where God has asked you to go. You have to take the first step. Abraham and Sarah, when Abraham said, hey, first of all, you're gonna be the father of many nations. Like, I'm old, bro. And my wife is old as well. How are we gonna do that? And God asked him to take a step, okay? And then he said, hey, I want you to go to a land that I'll show you, okay? What do I do? You take the first step. Where do I go? Take the first step. Sometimes you don't know what to do and where to go, but you need to take the first step, and God will, and he said, I will show you. So maybe that's an encouragement to you today. You don't know what to do, where to go, but God says, I will show you, but you need to get up. You need to get up. Put that in the chat, get up, okay? Like, you know, the thing about what Pastor always says, he's like, you know, God can't steer a parked car.
Yeah.
We got to put that thing in drive and just pull out, okay? So hope that encourages you today. Maybe you're feeling insecure, overwhelmed, fearful, hopeless, but God has a future and a hope for you. Sean, how did you feel when you were purchasing a home in 2020, middle of a pandemic? How did you feel stepping out in faith?
I mean, excited. Like, I mean, it was 2 years coming, looking for 2 years, and finally found the one that worked.
Yeah.
You know, there's work to be done on it still, but I found the one that worked for me. And I mean, there's so many things that were on my list that I didn't think were on my list. Wow. You know, big yard, I got solar, smart home, all this kind of stuff. And it just keeps stacking the more I keep looking, and just always trusting for the 2 years that I would find the right house. And then now it's there, and God keeps surprising me. It's like, oh yeah, you did want that. Oh yeah, you did want that. Wow. So it's been really good.
It's awesome. I went to Sean's house. He got the little ill tech set up and whatnot in the kitchen, and the lights and doing what they do. And you got the Google Home situation going on. And then he said, I got the solar. You got the solar. Elon Musk on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was doing things. I was like, yo, this is awesome. It's amazing to see where God has brought you. You've been faithful. You've been consistent, and say, hey, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. Even when it seems like everybody else is moving at their own pace and feels like they're passing me by. But what has God called me to do? What has God called me to do? He set you up in the middle of a pandemic to be able to purchase a home and to be able to have 2 cars. The man got 2 cars, okay? and that's what God wants to do in your life, okay? He's no respective person or person. He wants to say, hey, if you do it for Sean, he'll do it for me. If you do it for Sean, he'll do it for you. So what are you waiting on today? Are you hopeless? You need encouragement? Well, guess what? Encourage yourself in the Lord. Until somebody else will encourage you, encourage yourself. Look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? God, you're doing something in my life. I can't see it yet, but you're working in me. Amen. Even when you're in the dark and you're doing the things that nobody else wants to do, you're maybe posting things and you get 3 likes on them. You know what I'm saying? You want to take it down because it's embarrassing and no comments on them. Or like, my TikTok is super dry right now, okay? I'm just being honest with you. And I be feeling like some type of way. I'm like, really? That video blew up? You know what I'm saying? Like, in TikTok, I'm sorry, I'm going on a little rant here. Just okay? Well, Boost is doing good. Shout out to Boost. But I'm saying, like, with my owns, you know what I'm saying? People check that mug, they be like, yo, son, you know what I'm saying? So, but TikTok is all about blowing up. People will post, help me blow up. I'm like, really? You can't do that. That's cheating. So the thing is that, like, the whole game is to blow up. Yeah. And when you post something and you put your heart and soul in it, you're sweating, because all the other little girls on TikTok, they be doing it, they don't sweat. You know what I'm saying? All the guys, you know, but I'm sweating. I'm a grown man, okay? And you get 7 likes, then you start questioning not your life, but you start questioning things. Am I right, Joe?
Yeah, so I know exactly what you're talking about, because
Joe's like, I don't know really.
Well, you see, my TikTok is so up and down that I realize that I can't put my self-worth, in the amount of likes and shares and comments. So I was like, you know what? If I like it, then it's good. It's next.
And those be the ones that be blowing up, though.
Exactly.
The ones that be low key.
I just noticed that, like, I just noticed that when I try less and be myself, it gets like the most amount of love. And it's also crazy because I have a lot of friends on TikTok, and I follow a lot of people who have, 3,000 or not 3,000, but 300,000 and this and that.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking at them like, look at all these likes and shares. I'm like, for doing nothing, for just looking good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm over here jacked up, and I'm like, you know what? Like, what can I do? But then I started to, reached out to by brands that these people were as well. And I'm like, maybe it's not about all the likes and comments and shares. Maybe it's about who the person is. Yeah. So I said, like the only thing that I can do is be myself and honestly not hope to blow up, but help to inspire people and gain a community of people instead of just gaining people who want to comment, oh my gosh, so cool.
Right.
Right. So my TikTok vision kind of shifted.
That's good. Because your strategy shifted.
Yes.
And the strategy is to be yourself.
Yeah.
Be who God's called you to be. That you may be looking for a strategy today, and it could be a thus saith the Lord, just to be who God's called you to be. Don't try to be everybody else. They don't need anybody else to be them. Be you.
Honestly, 2 weeks ago, I was actually praying and I was like, God, even when it hurts, even when I'm trying my hardest and I'm sweating and everything breaks down, like my tripod breaks down or my phone overheats or, the content gets deleted or I don't have any more storage. I'm like, God, even when it hurts, it's like, I'm just going to trust you. Quit my job. I said, I'm tired of wasting time. I'm tired of wasting time. And I'm like, the money will be there, God, because I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. And that's when stuff started to really shift upward. It was when it's gonna sound cliche, but when I let go and I let God, so it's
so
true.
Good. That's so good. Oh man, I hope your hope is increasing today. I hope you're gaining hope. I hope you're feeling like you can do it because you can. You can do all things with Christ who strengthens you today. And sometimes we try to figure it out ourselves, but trust in the Lord. That Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he'll make your path straight. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will guide your paths to make them straight. Even if you turn to the left and you should have turned right, he can guide you to get you back on the right path. And that should be an encouragement today, because I know I've made some left turns and some right turns and zigzags and ups. Listen, God has been faithful, God has been good, and he will provide. You made it through 2020. Okay, rejoice in that. And I love the scripture. Let me share the scripture with you. Isaiah 43 verse 2. It says, when you go through the deep waters, when you go through a pandemic, when you go through racial divide, when you go through losing your job or loss in your family or loss in your health, he says, I will be with you. I will be with you. When you go through the rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you. Those flames will not consume you. That should bring you hope today. They're not going to consume you. You may be in the fire, but guess who's in the fire with you? Jesus.
Yes.
There's another in the fire. I love that song because it talks about how good God has been, how good God is right now, and how good he will be. He'll get you through the fire. Not necessarily take you out, but get you through that mug. Okay? So please be encouraged today to know that hope comes when you actually say, I'm going to decide to grab a hold to something that is anchored, something that is secure. Because when you're grabbing onto things that are fleeting, that are temporal, that change, it's hard to have hope in that. But when you're holding on to an anchor, and that's Jesus, you will have hope today. Ryan, can you share just a little bit and extend the net out to the people?
Yeah. Well, from the sounds of it, I think we can all agree that 2020 was challenging.
Yes.
Right? And if there's one thing I learned, it's that I can't do it on my own. I need Jesus. I need God to do it with me. And I know you guys can probably agree with me. But right now, us at Inspire, we want to invite you to invite Jesus into your life and to extend that offer to you. And if that's you, if something you heard here and you're like, you know what, I can't do this by myself. I can't go through the fire by myself. I need God to do it with me. We're gonna offer that opportunity to you. But if you could please repeat this prayer after me. Say, Dear Jesus, I accept you.
I accept you
to come into my life.
to come into my life
and to walk with me
and to walk with me
for the rest of my days.
for the rest of my days.
And right now,
And right now,
I accept you
I accept you
and I confess
and I confess
that you are Lord over my life.
that you are Lord over my life.
And right now,
And right now,
you are my Lord
you are my Lord
over every part of my
over
life.
every part of my life.
In Jesus' name,
In Jesus' name,
amen.
amen. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I hope you are a little bit more encouraged today. You have a little bit more hope than when you started, because God has a future filled with hope for you, whether it's in your marriage, whether it's in your relationship, whether it's in your business, your job, your home, your car situation, your social media. God has a future filled with hope for you. He will never leave you. He'll never forsake you. And I'll encourage you to take the next step. Just don't stop here. We talked about taking next steps and actually doing something today. And that's Growth Track. You can do Growth Track here in person on campus or online. It's a 4-step process. It's going to help you know God, find freedom, discover your purpose, and make a difference. And our mission here is to lead people to God and to let you know that, hey, God's for you and help you discover his purpose for your life. So we want to encourage you to take that next step. And if you go to the website that's on the screen, you can take all those steps, and we just want to walk with you through it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you're listening to Facebook or Instagram, because we have some really cool content that we want to continue to bring you throughout the new year, which is just in a couple of weeks. Oh my gosh, 2021 is almost here. And let me just give you guys a heads up. 2021 is going to come with its own opportunities and challenges, okay? Just because the calendar flip does not mean that everything else is going to change. So we want to be prepared and help walk with you through that change. I'm excited to continue this podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm excited for what God's going to do in and through your life. And before you sign off, don't forget, God is for you.